families in Montgomery to help make ends meet. Amos and Bernice's best neighbor friends were George Washington Motley and Mamie Ruth Mossy Motley, a childless couple in their 40s. For more than 20 years, the Perrys and the Motleys had swapped stories and apple pies, wandered unannounced in and out of the other's home, and cried and laughed together. Each family was in the other's innermost circle. In the spring of 1964, Bernice received devastating news. She had terminal cancer. As she lay dying, she asked George and Mossy for an almost unimaginable favor to adopt her fourth youngest child, Barbara Ann, age 10, and bring her up as their own. I've often wondered why Barbara Ann was chosen to go live with George and Mossy. Did Bernice fear that Barbara Ann was the most vulnerable? Did Bernice hope that George and Mossy, relatively better off and with more time to put into a child, might be able to nurture her in a way Amos couldn't? Or was Bernice offering them the opportunity to become parents? George and Mossy likely never told Bernice and Amos about their failed attempts to have children, but Bernice had to have picked up on Mossy's disappointment over the years. Whatever lay behind it, Bernice's request came as a surprise to the Motleys. Most people would want to fulfill the dying wishes of a cherished friend, but adopting a child was a major decision. Taking in a youngster was a financial liability and needed to be considered carefully. For the Motleys, it wasn't a difficult calculation. They made a lifetime promise without considering how disruptive a child would be to their marriage. Invariably, the will of God mysteriously unfolds just as it should. As Bernice lay stretched out in an ambulance for her final ride, with Mrs. Reeves holding her hand, she asked about the adoption proceedings. Mrs. Reeves, a white woman for whom Bernice cleaned house, had paid for Bernice's cancer treatments and arranged for Barbara Ann's adoption. Mrs. Reeves reminded her that the papers had been signed 2 days earlier. The Motleys are officially Barbara Ann's parents. I know. I just needed to hear it one more time. She passed away 48 hours later. Barbara Ann lost her mother and went from being one of 14 to an only child in just a few days. A sunny girl, she burst into George and Mossy's quiet home. The new name, Barbara Ann Motley, brought privileges and opportunities unlike anything she might have imagined. She had spent most of her early life wearing one of 3 dresses, recycled from older sisters. Now the Motleys fitted her for new dresses and matching ribbons for every day of the week. For the first time in her life, she had her own pair of new shoes. Other firsts followed. Barbara Ann got her own bed, even her own room. She was used to competing for yesterday's leftovers. Now she was one of only 3 to share the feast of a chicken dinner. Barbara Ann left a free-spirited household, where discipline and orderliness were relaxed. She suddenly shared a home with 2 people who set rules and abided by them precisely: curfews, dressing for dinner, and the manners of the Motley household unnerved her. Barbara Ann's tendency was to push back. The older Barbara Ann grew, the more prone she was to argue and assert her independence. Still, the Motleys experienced unanticipated joy because finally they had a child to love. The years 1964 to 1972 were turbulent for Barbara Ann. As fate would have it, her struggles coincided with the political and social upheaval rippling across the country. Barbara Ann rode the wave of black students integrating Robert E. Lee High School and, in 1973, was among the first to earn a diploma from the formerly all-white school. She eagerly looked toward her future. But in 1972, when Barbara Ann was 18, she found out she was pregnant. She gave birth in a Tuskegee hospital a week before Christmas, bringing her newborn home to 34 Motley Drive in Madison Park. They called me Eric. Answering an infant's middle-of-the-night cry was a new experience for everyone in the family. Just as George and Mossy were about to be comfortably alone, their house revolved around diapers, baby food, and pediatrician's visits. Despite Barbara Ann's confidence that she could raise me on her own, George and Mossy sensed that she wouldn't cope well with the emotional, financial, and spiritual demands of single motherhood, added to her own early adulthood pressures. Just after my first birthday, they insisted on becoming my legal guardians, though they had made a similar